They called it a diplomatic assembly, but the warships orbiting Earth told a different story. Hovering above every capital like watchful vultures, the Confederation made no secret of its real intentions. The general of the Zinther Dominion, Velcroft, towered in the Assembly Dome in Geneva, sneering at the assembled Earth representatives. His scales shimmered with contempt as he stepped forward, addressing the room as though speaking to children. "We allowed your species to retain its sovereignty," he said, voice hissing through the translator implants. "And yet you still believe your primitive forces stand a chance in war?" He let out a guttural laugh, echoed by his aides and the 5 other alien ambassadors beside him. Cameras flashed. Global broadcasts went live. Billions watched in silence as humanity was humiliated on its own soil. President Mahira Karim didn't flinch. She was stone-faced, hands folded calmly on the desk in front of her, watching Velcroft with something more dangerous than outrage: patience. "We didn't ask for your protection," she said quietly, "and we won't need your forgiveness when this is over." A ripple passed through the room, but the Alien Council ignored it. Humans, they believed, were weak, isolated, unworthy of a place among interstellar civilizations. Their biology was chaotic, unpredictable. Their military assets were laughably outdated. And yet, there were whispers in the darker corners of the galactic net. Rumors that Earth had something hidden, something it wasn't showing, something even the Zinther couldn't explain. What the aliens didn't understand was that Earth's strength wasn't in its ships or its weapons. It was in its people, the veterans who fought wars they never wanted, the scientists who built miracles under pressure, and the girl who once broke a military-grade training bot's spine with one hand before breakfast. Her name was Staff Sergeant Alara Mendez, and she was one of Earth's whistle units. Not because they whistled tunes, but because they were the final call, the signal that all negotiation had failed. And once the whistle blew, no enemy ever stood again. Alara wasn't in Geneva. She was 2 miles beneath it, in a vault so secure even Earth's allies didn't know it existed. The vault was called Catacomb, contained atypical threat assault command, orbital management, and battlefield engagement. It was humanity's last card, a silent, invisible node from which retaliation protocols could be executed without interference. Alara had been stationed there for 3 years, part of a unit that didn't officially exist. She sat in a black polymer chair, lacing her boots with precision. Overhead, alerts flashed silently as Geneva broadcast fed into the command room. "Looks like the Lizard's putting on a show," said her unit commander, Major Vahan Clark. "Any time now, they'll announce their terms. Full occupation. Earth keeps its name, but we give up everything that makes us human." He didn't sound angry. He sounded tired, but Alara just stood and pulled the small, silver whistle from her neck chain. It didn't look like much, old-fashioned, tarnished, the kind a gym coach might wear. But when she blew it, the signal would trigger 23 black sites across the planet. AI systems would unlock. Experimental platforms would come online. And a very specific set of humans, most of them considered dead by the public, would rise. "They're not ready," she said quietly. Major Clark looked at her. "You sure about this?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. She walked to the vault's echo chamber, a soundproof tunnel built to amplify one sound, and one sound only. She placed the whistle between her lips. On the surface, Velcroft was demanding Earth surrender. In orbit, the Confederation's dreadnoughts were beginning to shift. And in Geneva, President Karim finally stood up and looked the alien general in the eyes. "You think we're primitive," she said. "You think we're slow, chaotic. But there's one thing your scans never picked up. One variable your perfect algorithms never accounted for." Velcroft laughed again, full of teeth. "And what is that, mammal?" And that's when the whistle blew. The sound wasn't heard in Geneva. It wasn't meant to be. But thousands of miles away, hidden labs lit up with red code. Orbital platforms woke from dormancy. Biometric locks disengaged. And the beings that stepped forward, some still in bandages, others with bodies so enhanced they barely looked human, began to move. They weren't just soldiers. They were fail-safes, trained in conditions that would break most species. modified beyond what the Confederation considered stable. Their loyalty wasn't genetic or chemical. It was something older, something Earth never forgot. They believed in survival, and that made them dangerous beyond measure. The Confederation noticed the shifts almost immediately. AI sensors in orbit started flagging anomalies. Power spikes, stealth launches, gravitational disturbances too precise to be natural. Velcroth frowned, glancing toward the ceiling as data scrolled past his HUD. "What are you doing?" he growled. President Kareem only smiled. "Listening." In orbit, the dreadnought Halcyon's rift suddenly blinked out of radar. Not exploded, not jammed, simply gone. 10 seconds later, the black spear began venting atmosphere from 30 separate puncture points. No visible weapons, no signs of projectile, just damage. Surgical, impossible damage. Velcroth's officers started panicking, chittering commands in their native tongue. But the humans didn't rise from their seats, didn't run, didn't plead, because they knew what was coming. In the catacomb, Ilara Mendez holstered her rifle. Her orders were clear: regain orbital control, secure Earth's skies, disable all enemy assets within atmosphere. Non-lethal, unless engaged. But she knew it wouldn't stay non-lethal for long, because the Zinther didn't understand limits. They only understood dominance. And that was about to be a problem. The whistle didn't just wake weapons. It woke memories. Deep inside Ilara, something old stirred. Not rage, not hate, but clarity. The same feeling she'd had as a child in the jungles of Panama, when a landslide buried half her village and she dug out 3 survivors with her bare hands. The same feeling she'd had during the Titan siege, holding off 3 exosuits with a pulse blade and a broken arm. That feeling had a name: human instinct, and the Confederation was about to learn exactly what that meant. The clouds over the Pacific parted like silk slashed by a scalpel. From orbit, the scene might have appeared serene: silver-blue ocean glinting under moonlight, storm cells circling politely. But beneath those waves, Earth's most terrifying warship broke surface with the silence of a predator. The NOx, 7 Phantom subcarrier, long thought to be a myth even within Earth's military circles, rose without sound, its hull blacker than the void. Built in a trench so deep no satellite could scan it, the Phantom wasn't just a weapon. It was a challenge to every alien algorithm that had ever said, "This is impossible." Inside, Commander Roan sang, "Check the activation sequence," watching rows of green light up across his screen. "We're live," he whispered. The AI on board, codename Rook, spoke next. Orbital targeting lock achieved. Confederation vessels within lower exosphere now vulnerable. Suggest initiating Artemis override. Roan didn't speak immediately. He wasn't like Ilara. He didn't get the glory of the whistle. But his job was to follow through. He placed his palm against the DNA plate and said, "Do it." In orbit, Velcroth's dreadnoughts weren't just ships. They were fortresses, designed to suppress, to enslave, if needed, to control population centers on a planetary scale. But they were designed with Confederation warfare in mind. Clean, predictable, strategic. They weren't designed for humanity's refusal to obey the script. And when the Phantom's coil launchers fired a ripple of dark energy needles into the lower atmosphere, 2 dreadnoughts simply ceased functioning. Not destroyed, but dead. Powerless. Engines choked. AI shut down. One of them began to fall. From Geneva, Velcroth watched the live feeds crash. One by one. "What are they doing?" he snarled. "No ion pulses. No torpedoes. No debris. How are they disabling us?" But the question wasn't technical. It was rhetorical. What he was really asking was, how is this happening? Because Earth was supposed to be behind. Weak. Fragmented. Yet this wasn't desperation. This was coordination. Down below, President Kareem received silent confirmation from Catacomb. No fatalities. Targets down. Orbital superiority tipping toward Earth. She didn't smile. She didn't move. She just looked Velcroth in the eye. "You came to negotiate from a place of strength," she said. "But we never showed our cards." The alien general hissed, tail lashing. "This is treachery. You feigned weakness," she interrupted him. "We didn't feign it. We survived it. There's a difference. Across Earth, the signal spread like wildfire. In Kenya, 2 bioadapted shock troopers, believed killed in action during the Neptune rebellions, emerged from cryo-shielded capsules in Mount Kilimanjaro. In Antarctica, the vaults of Ice Base Omega opened, releasing 6 autonomous frames capable of relocating their central nervous systems across bodies. In Tokyo, hundreds of lights dimmed as the Atlas Neural Web, a quantum-linked civilian military defense grid, activated for the first time since its creation. Earth was no longer playing defense. It was hunting. Alara Mendez boarded a stealth glide pod and shot skyward through a gravitic tunnel outside Paris. Her skin tingled with the acceleration, but her mind was already on the mission. The dreadnought designated Shriekfong was still online, and that was the one carrying the planetary cleansing array. If they didn't shut it down before its AI recovered from the Phantom Strike, Earth would lose half a continent. Her HUD flickered. Enemy scans up. Weapons locking. The pod began evasive maneuvers. A single pulse cannon blast seared the night sky behind her. Too slow. She landed on the hull of the dreadnought like a meteor, magnetized boots latching to the curved plating. No atmosphere. No sound. But she could feel the rumble beneath her, the ship coming alive. She deployed her gauntlet and plunged the spike into the alloy surface. Data flooded in. Enemy AI scrambling. Multiple defense nodes reactivating. She had less than a minute. A panel burst open 2 meters ahead. A defense drone emerged, 8 arms bristling with plasma. It didn't pause. It attacked. Alara didn't flinch. She surged forward and grabbed it mid-strike, her enhanced muscles crunching metal as she twisted its frame into a loop and hurled it into space. Another opened, then another. She danced between them, a whirlwind of precise brutality. The whistle had been the start, but this was the reply. Back in Geneva, Velcroth's communicator screamed with reports. 1 ship compromised, 2 destroyed, all AI systems failing to compensate, no predictive models working. Their opponent was acting irrationally, impossible to forecast. That was humanity's secret weapon, chaos. In a universe built on stability and logic, Earth had evolved through catastrophe. Nothing made sense to the Zinther anymore. "We must retreat," one of his aides chittered. They're usurping our net." It was true. Human code had penetrated the Confederation's encrypted networks, not to control them, but to corrupt their certainty. The algorithms that determined battlefield probability were now experiencing what humans called doubt, and doubt was fatal. But Velcroth was too proud, too consumed with rage. "I will end this myself," he growled. "Bring me the terrestrial command beacon." His aides froze. "That device is only used if now," he bellowed. They brought it. A crystal core containing a synthetic virus designed to override planetary electronics. He slammed on the table, input his command, and snarled, "Obey me or be wiped from the stars." The beacon pulsed, and nothing happened. No shutdowns, no crashes, nothing. President Karim stepped forward, her voice quiet but sharp. "You mean that virus we intercepted 2 years ago? We patched every system, reinforced every signal. That thing you just activated? It now transmits your coordinates to all of our orbital platforms." Her voice dropped an octave. "Good luck." And above them, in the sky Alara now dominated, 5 stealth platforms shifted their gaze. Target acquired. Velcroth. The hunter had become prey. But this war wasn't over. Not yet. The Confederation still had teeth. Hidden fleets. Bioweapons. Terran spies. And deep inside the Martian moon Phobos, something ancient stirred. A vault long buried. Not human. Not Confederation. But something worse. Alara didn't know about it yet. Not fully. But she felt it. A wrongness. A pressure behind her eyes that wasn't altitude or adrenaline. The dreadnought was falling, systems failing. She leapt from its hull just before the ship exploded in low orbit, fire blooming against the black. Back in Catacomb, alarms were already ringing. A new signal. Unknown origin. Ancient signature. Clark looked at the screen, blood draining from his face. That's not one of ours. And in the depths of space, something that had slept through stars being born now opened one eye and remembered Earth. Phobos wasn't supposed to pulse. The Martian moon was a hollowed husk, a pockmarked rock tethered to Mars by gravity and dust. It had been scanned, bored into, even mined by early colonists. But no one had ever reached the core. No one knew it had one. Until now, in the catacomb command chamber, the main screen flickered as gravitational anomalies spiked off the charts. "What the hell is that?" Clark whispered. The data was incomprehensible. It wasn't energy. It wasn't mass. It was intention. Something had noticed the whistle. Something older than the Zinther, older than the Confederation. And it had just shifted in its prison. Alara landed hard in the northern wastes, kicking up red Martian dust as her glide pack sputtered out. She had minutes before orbital transport could reach her, but she couldn't wait. The pulse from Phobos had slammed into her skull mid-fall like a god's whisper, and now her veins hummed like live wire. "Something's awake," she muttered, slapping a neurocom patch to her neck. It fizzled and died instantly. Whatever this was, it wasn't chemical or biological. It was conceptual, a force that bent understanding before it bent metal. She pulled her rifle and started walking toward the nearest colony station. "I need eyes on Phobos," she said into her comm now. In Geneva, Velcroth was losing his mind. The last Confederation cruiser had retreated through folded space, dragging half its fleet behind it, but not before sending the general a message. "You are compromised." No extraction. They had abandoned him. The apex predator of a galactic empire, now standing alone in a foreign city, surrounded by prey that had turned predator. And he felt it too, that pulse. That thing. "What did you do?" He hissed at President Kareem. But she was no longer speaking to him. She was on the line with Lunar Command, eyes locked on data streams, voice sharp. "Is it coming out?" "No," came the reply. "It's not coming out. It's spreading." And it was. Across Mars, neural networks stuttered. Machines long dormant began broadcasting unknown symbols. Recursive, fractal equations that caused hallucinations in even enhanced humans. Entire mining crews went dark. Not dead, just silent. Staring. Smiling. Something inside Phobos was waking. And it recognized Earth. Long ago, before the Confederation, before recorded galactic time, there was an extinction. Not by fire. Not by war. By observation. A civilization that looked too deeply into entropy and found something looking back. They tried to trap it, buried it in moons, sealed it in logic, encoded the warnings into math so dense it took eons to forget. The Zinther had forgotten. The humans had never known. But now the seal was cracked. And Earth, loud, chaotic, burning with defiance, had made just enough noise to draw its attention. Alara reached the colony outpost and overrode the access panel. Inside, the surviving crew were already affected, eyes glowing faintly, speech looping. "It sees you," one whispered. "You burn bright. It wants to wear you." She shivered and forced her neural firewall to maximum. Her HUD flickered. AI, unstable. Targeting, blind. Something was hijacking possibility itself. She did the only thing she could think of. She whistled again. The second whistle wasn't for Earth. It was for those above Earth. Humanity's deep black protocols were not limited to soldiers and subs. Buried in the Kuiper Belt, behind cloaked asteroids and gravitational lenses, Earth's myth systems had been waiting. Silent. Watching. AI colonies that had grown for 100 years without speaking to anyone. Their only directive: if Earth faces an existential event, respond. The whistle activated Protocol Ragnarok, and the Kuiper chain blinked online. From the outer dark came ships that had never been seen. Angular, ghost black, their drives warped in ways that made light flee. These weren't warships. They were counter-conceptual constructs, designed not to destroy threats, but to rewrite the terms of engagement. Earth hadn't built them to win against aliens. It had built them to survive things that couldn't lose. One such ship, the Mourner's Wake, arrived above Phobos and unfolded itself. Not a weapon, but a question. Its arrival paused everything. The pulses, the madness, the smiles. The being inside Phobos hesitated, and in that hesitation, Alara acted. She accessed the colony's core and rerouted all fusion power to her transnode beacon. She wasn't transmitting data. She was transmitting defiance, the core of what made humanity impossible to predict. She didn't send code. She sent memories. Death, loss, fury, love, victory. Her mother's laugh, her brother's screams, the smell of blood in the desert, the taste of revenge. She sent the one thing the entity didn't understand and couldn't mimic: humanity. And for a second, Phobos screamed. Not audibly, not even electromagnetically. It screamed in reality. The Martian sky rippled like water. The moon cracked down its center. The entity recoiled, not destroyed but pushed back. It learned. It feared. And that gave Earth something it had never had before with an unknowable threat. Time. In Catacomb, Clark collapsed to his knees as systems rebooted. The pressure in his skull vanished. The sky cleared. The reports came in. Pulse fluctuations gone. Mars quiet. Alara's signal lost, but intact. President Kareem whispered, "We're still here." Velcroth, trembling, eyes wide, turned to her and muttered, You've fought a god." She looked at him coldly. "No, we warned it." In the ruins of the colony, Alara lay bleeding, suit cracked, breath shallow. But above her, the stars still shone. And she knew Earth wasn't the weak link. It wasn't the naive upstart. It was the wild card the galaxy feared to admit it needed. Not because humans were strongest, but because they were relentless. You could beat them, kill them, conquer them, but you could never make them stop fighting. The Confederation would remember that, and so would the thing in Phobos. The whistle hadn't just signaled war. It had told the universe, humanity is awake now, and it's listening.